I'm Linda Williams, 63 years old, and I thought I knew what heartbreak felt like until I read that text message from my daughter Sarah last December. Mom, we want to have a peaceful Christmas with our in-laws this year. We need space. 45 years of Christmas traditions suddenly swept away with a single notification. My finger hovered over the phone as tears blurred my vision. What I did next surprised even me. If you're watching this, drop a comment telling me where you're spending your holidays and hit subscribe to see how this family drama unfolds. Sarah and I have always been close. At least that's what I believed for most of her 38 years. She was my only child, my pride and joy, the little girl with auburn curls who would help me bake Christmas cookies every December without fail. Her husband Jack came into our lives 15 years ago. He's a good man, hardworking and kind, but sometimes I wonder if he truly understands the importance of family traditions. My grandchildren Emma and Tyler are 14 and 11 now. Emma is already showing signs of her mother's independence, while Tyler still crawls into my lap whenever I visit, though I suspect those days are numbered. They've been the light of my life since my husband Frank passed away 3 years ago. Frank's death changed everything. For 40 years, he was my rock. My best friend, the one who would string the Christmas lights while I decorated the tree. His heart attack came without warning one Tuesday afternoon while he was mowing the lawn. Just like that, he was gone, and I was alone in the 3-bedroom house we'd bought when Sarah was just a toddler. This would have been my 3rd Christmas without him. The first year after his passing, I went through the motions for everyone else's sake. Last year was a blur of grief and adjustment, but this year was supposed to be different. This year, I had finally started to feel like myself again. 6 months ago, I received news that my sister Marion had passed away. We hadn't been particularly close in our adult years, but she never married or had children. To my surprise, she left me a substantial inheritance. After weeks of consideration, I made a decision that shocked even myself. I sold our family home in Michigan and purchased a beautiful villa in Florida with an ocean view. "You deserve this, Linda," my friend Judy had said when I showed her the pictures. "Frank would want you to be happy." The villa became my project, my healing space. I spent months furnishing it hanging artwork and transforming it into a home. As December approached, I couldn't wait to host Christmas there. I imagined the grandchildren running on the beach, holiday music playing while we sat on the terrace watching the sunset. I planned every detail, the menu featuring both traditional dishes and new seafood options, the guest rooms decorated with festive touches, personalized stockings hanging from the mantel of my new gas fireplace. I even bought special gifts that could only be enjoyed in Florida. Beach toys for the kids, a gorgeous sundress for Sarah, golf clubs for Jack. Everything was going to be perfect. What I hadn't fully accounted for was the tension with Jack's parents, Margaret and Howard. They're perfectly nice people in small doses, but holiday gatherings with them have always been strained. Margaret has strong opinions about how everything should be done, from how the turkey should be carved to when presents should be opened. Howard spends most of his time watching sports and commenting on the good old days. Frank used to run interference, engaging Howard in conversations about classic cars, while I dealt with Margaret's subtle criticisms. In recent years, I'd noticed Sarah gravitating toward their way of doing things. She'd mention how organized Margaret's gift-giving system was, or how Howard had taught the kids some traditional carols I'd never heard of. Small things, but they stung nonetheless. There had also been some tension between Sarah and me about how I sometimes spoiled the grandkids. "Mom, you can't just give them whatever they want," she'd say when I brought over surprise gifts or took them for ice cream before dinner. "We're trying to teach them about delayed gratification." I understood her perspective, but couldn't she see I was just trying to create special memories? Frank's death had shown me how precious and fleeting time really is. Despite these small frictions, I truly believed this Christmas would be our best in years. I had a new home, renewed energy, and plans to create magical memories for my family. I imagined us starting new traditions while honoring the old ones, perhaps even beginning a custom of Christmas on the beach. I was hanging ornaments on my new 10-foot tree, carefully placing the handmade ones Sarah had created as a child in prominent positions when my phone chimed with her message. The text glowed on my screen like a neon sign. "Mom, we want to have a peaceful Christmas with our in-laws this year. We need space." I read it 3 times before the meaning fully registered. They weren't coming. They were spending Christmas with Jack's parents instead of me. My hands trembled as I set down the delicate glass angel I'd been about to hang. It was the last ornament Frank had given me before he died, a beautiful piece with wings that caught the light. I placed it back in its box, suddenly afraid I might drop it. I tried calling Sarah immediately, but the call went straight to voicemail. Had she deliberately turned off her phone after sending the message? Was she avoiding my reaction? "Sarah, honey, it's Mom. I got your text. Could you please call me back? I'd like to talk about Christmas." I tried to keep my voice steady, but the crack in it was unmistakable. I waited an hour, staring at my phone, willing it to ring. Nothing. Finally, I typed a response, deleting and rewriting it several times before settling on 2 simple words: "Enjoy yourselves." After sending it, I collapsed onto my new cream-colored sofa surrounded by half-unpacked decoration boxes. The tree stood partially decorated, lights twinkling merrily in stark contrast to the heaviness in my chest. 3 stockings lay on the coffee table. Emma's, Tyler's, and Jack's, waiting to be hung beside my own and the special one I kept for Frank. They would remain in the box this year. As darkness fell outside, memories flooded back. Sarah at 5 waking me at dawn on Christmas morning, her excitement too big to contain. Sarah at 12 carefully selecting the perfect gift for her father with her babysitting money. Sarah at 16 rolling her eyes at our traditions, but participating nonetheless. Sarah at 25 bringing Jack home for his first Christmas with our family, both of them glowing with new love. Had I imagined the joy in those memories? Had she been counting the years until she could break away? I called Judy around 9, unable to bear the silence anymore. "They're not coming," I said, when she answered, not bothering with a greeting. "What do you mean they're not coming?" Judy's voice rose in disbelief. I read her the text. "That's it. A text message. After you've talked about nothing but this Christmas for months." Judy's indignation matched the feelings I couldn't quite express. "And what's this about peaceful? Is she implying holidays with you aren't peaceful?" "I guess so." I whispered the thought, cutting deeper than I wanted to admit. "Linda, listen to me. You've spent your entire life putting Sarah first. You worked 2 jobs to send her to that expensive college. You babysit whenever they ask. You rearranged your whole life when Frank died to make sure everyone else was okay. And this is how she thanks you. She's my daughter, Judy. And you're her mother. That doesn't mean you have to accept being treated like an afterthought." I spent the night tossing and turning, replaying years of memories and wondering where I'd gone wrong. Had I been too controlling? Too permissive? Had I somehow failed to impress upon Sarah the importance of family? By morning, exhaustion had given way to clarity. I'd spent 3 years since Frank's death trying to make everyone else comfortable with my grief, my loneliness, my need for connection. I'd moved houses and states trying to rebuild my life in a way that would work for everyone, and still it wasn't enough. As the sun rose over the ocean, painting my new home in golden light, I made a decision. I deserved better. I deserved a Christmas filled with people who actually wanted to be with me. I watched a dolphin play in the distance, its fin breaking the water's surface in a graceful arc. Frank used to say that animals live in the present. They don't regret the past or worry about the future. Maybe it was time I learned to do the same. If Sarah and her family wanted space, I would give it to them. But that didn't mean I had to spend Christmas alone. After making myself a strong cup of coffee, I sat down at my kitchen island and made a list of people who might not have solid Christmas plans, who else might be alone or overlooked this holiday season. My younger brother Tom and his wife Diana immediately came to mind. They lived in North Carolina and usually spent the holidays quietly, just the two of them, since their children had moved to Europe for work. Tom had mentioned last year how Christmas had lost some of its magic now that their house was empty. I picked up the phone and called before I could lose my nerve. "Tom, it's Linda." "Linda, what a nice surprise. How's the Florida villa treating you?" "It's beautiful. Actually, that's why I'm calling. I'm hosting Christmas here this year and would love if you and Diana could come." There was a pause. "What about Sarah and the kids? Won't they be there?" I swallowed hard. "They've decided to spend Christmas with Jack's family this year." Another pause. "I'm sorry, sis. That must be tough." "It is what it is. But I have this beautiful home now, and I'd love to share it with people who actually want to be here. Let me check with Diana, but I think we'd love that. To be honest, Christmas has been pretty quiet for us lately." By the end of the call, Tom and Diana were tentatively confirmed pending flight availability, one call down, several to go. Next, I contacted Frank's sister, Patricia. She'd been widowed 5 years before Frank died, and I knew holidays were particularly hard for her. She lived alone in a small apartment in Chicago and usually declined invitations, preferring to spend the day volunteering at a local shelter. "Patricia, how would you feel about a Christmas in Florida this year? Ocean views, warm weather, no snow to shovel." "Linda, that sounds wonderful, but I couldn't impose." "It's not an imposition. It's an invitation. Frank would want us to spend the holidays together." At the mention of her brother, Patricia's voice softened. "He always did love bringing people together." "So you'll come?" "I'd be honored." With growing confidence, I called Frank's former colleagues who had become our friends over the years. Harold and Meredith Johnson had retired to Arizona, but had mentioned they weren't looking forward to another hot Christmas. The ocean breeze would be a nice change for them. I reached out to our old neighbors, the Sullivans, who had been like second parents to Sarah growing up. They'd moved to a retirement community after we both sold our homes, and Barbara had mentioned feeling lost during the holidays now. My cousin Beatrice, who had recently finalized a difficult divorce, practically cried when I extended the invitation. "I was dreading sitting in my apartment alone while my ex has the kids this year," she admitted. "This is exactly what I needed." By midday, I had a list of 12 people who had enthusiastically accepted my invitation. What had started as a reaction to rejection was transforming into something exciting. For the first time since planning this Christmas, I felt genuine anticipation rather than anxiety about meeting others' expectations. I headed to the local shopping center that afternoon with a renewed sense of purpose. If I was hosting 12 people instead of 5, I needed more decorations, more food, more everything. I bought additional strands of lights for the palm trees in my yard, beach-themed ornaments for the tree, and small welcome gifts for each guest's room. As I shopped, I was careful not to mention my plans to mutual friends who might report back to Sarah. This wasn't about creating drama or making her feel bad. This was about me creating joy for myself and others who would otherwise be alone. I began to feel something I hadn't expected: empowerment. For years, my identity had been tied to being Sarah's mother, Frank's wife Emma, and Tyler's grandmother. Now, I was simply Linda, a woman with a beautiful home and the desire to create a meaningful holiday on her terms. Over the next few days, confirmations rolled in. People arranged flights, requested time off work, and expressed genuine excitement about our gathering. Several offered to bring special dishes or help with preparations. The genuine warmth in their responses healed something in me that Sarah's text had broken. My villa, which had felt cavernous and empty the night I received that text, now seemed like the perfect size for the celebration taking shape. This wasn't the Christmas I had planned, but maybe it would be the Christmas I needed. In the 2 weeks before Christmas, my villa transformed from a lovely but generic vacation home into a true reflection of the holiday spirit. I hung twinkling lights along the terrace railing where they reflected in the pool water. I decorated the massive tree with a mixture of treasured family ornaments and new ones with beach themes. Starfish shells and sandals made me smile every time I looked at them. For each guest, I created personalized welcome baskets with Florida oranges, local honey beach towels embroidered with their initials, and small jars of sand and shells I'd collected from my beach walks. I placed these baskets in each guest room, along with framed photos of past holidays we'd shared together. The kitchen became my headquarters as I planned a menu that would honor traditions while embracing our tropical location. We'd have turkey, of course, but also fresh seafood. I found recipes for key lime pie alongside my traditional apple and pumpkin. I ordered special plates with subtle holiday patterns that would still match my coastal decor. As I worked, I found myself humming Christmas carols and actually enjoying the process. Without the pressure of making everything perfect for Sarah's critical eye, or worrying about whether the grandkids would be bored, I felt free to create the holiday that spoke to my own heart. 3 days before Christmas, a card arrived in the mail from Sarah. It was a generic family photo card. Sarah, Jack, and the kids posed in matching sweaters in front of their fireplace. The printed message read, "Wishing you peace and joy this holiday season. Love, the Thompsons." She had signed nothing personal, added no handwritten note. I stood in my driveway staring at the card, fighting the urge to call her and demand an explanation. Was I now just another name on her Christmas card list? Had our relationship been reduced to generic holiday greetings? I was tempted to send a pointed response or share my elaborate Christmas plans, but something stopped me. Dignity, perhaps, or the realization that confrontation wouldn't change anything. Instead, I placed the card on my mantle among the others I'd received and continued with my preparations. That evening, I spoke with Judy on the phone. The card felt like another rejection, I admitted. "Of course it did," Judy replied. "But look at what you're creating, Linda. You've turned a hurtful situation into something beautiful for so many people." "I still wish they were coming," I confessed. "Especially the grandkids. This would have been magical for them." "I know you do, but this isn't about them anymore. This is about you honoring yourself enough to create joy even when others disappoint you." Her words stayed with me as I finished decorating. That night, I opened the special storage box that contained Frank's things that I couldn't bear to part with. Among them was his favorite Christmas sweater, a ridiculous red thing with a light-up Rudolph nose that the grandkids had always found hilarious. On impulse, I pulled it out and draped it over a chair in the living room. Frank would be part of this Christmas too in his own way. As the day approached, I received periodic updates about Sarah's holiday preparations through mutual friends. Apparently, Margaret had insisted on cooking everything herself, refusing Sarah's offers to help. Jack's father had invited his golfing buddies over to watch sports, meaning the house would be full of cigar smoke and loud conversations. The kids were reportedly bored, already missing their usual freedoms. I felt a mixture of vindication and sadness hearing these reports. Part of me wanted Sarah to regret her choice, while another part simply wished she was happy. The most surprising emotion, however, was the realization that their Christmas drama felt increasingly distant from my own experience. I was creating something new and meaningful regardless of their choices. Every day I walked on the beach at sunset collecting shells and watching the sky turn spectacular shades of pink and orange. One evening, I found myself talking aloud to Frank as if he were walking beside me. "I think you'd be proud of me," I said to the waves. "I'm not just surviving anymore. I'm living." The evening breeze seemed to wrap around me like an embrace, and for the first time memories of Frank brought smiles instead of tears. Christmas Eve arrived with perfect weather, 75 degrees and sunny with a gentle breeze off the ocean. I woke early, too excited to sleep, and spent the morning putting final touches on the decorations and preparing food that could be made ahead of time. Tom and Diana were the first to arrive, their rental car pulling into my driveway just after noon. As I welcomed them with hugs, I saw their eyes widen at the villa. "Linda, this place is stunning," Diana exclaimed, taking in the palm trees wrapped in lights and the sound of waves in the distance. "Wait until you see the view." I promised, leading them inside. Their reaction to the ocean vista from my living room windows was exactly what I'd hoped for when I bought the place. Pure joy and appreciation. Throughout the afternoon, the other guests arrived in waves. Some by car, others by taxi from the airport. Harold and Meredith brought homemade tamales, a Christmas tradition they'd adopted in Arizona. Barbara and George Sullivan arrived with boxes of ornaments they'd saved from our old neighborhood block parties. Cousin Beatrice came with her arms full of presents, her face more relaxed than I'd seen it in years. Patricia was the last to arrive, looking nervous, until she spotted Frank's Christmas sweater draped over the chair. She walked straight to it, touched it gently, and then gave me a hug that communicated everything words couldn't. "He would love this," she whispered. "All these people together in this beautiful place." By 6 o'clock, my home was filled with conversation and laughter. We gathered on the terrace for appetizers as the sun began to set, 12 adults who might otherwise have been alone, now connected by friendship and shared history. For dinner, I had arranged a long table in the living room where everyone could sit together. I'd used my best linens, Frank's mother's china, and candles that filled the room with the scent of pine and cranberry. Before we ate, Tom raised his glass in a toast. "To Linda, who reminded us all what Christmas is really about, choosing to be with people who choose to be with you." There were murmurs of agreement around the table, and I felt tears spring to my eyes. Not from sadness this time, but from profound gratitude. The dinner conversation flowed effortlessly, with everyone sharing stories about their connection to me and Frank. Harold recounted the time Frank had helped him change a tire in the middle of a blizzard. Barbara remembered how I'd cared for her children during her hospital stay 20 years ago. Memories I'd forgotten resurfaced through others' perspectives, painting a picture of the lives Frank and I had touched. After dinner, someone suggested caroling, and to my surprise, everyone enthusiastically agreed. We gathered on my oceanfront balcony, singing traditional carols as stars appeared in the clear night sky. Our voices may not have been professional quality, but the joy was unmistakable. As we sang Silent Night, I noticed a figure hurrying up my driveway. It was Catherine, my old friend from book club who had moved to Arizona years ago. I hadn't expected her, She'd declined my invitation due to family commitments. "Surprise!" she called out, climbing the steps to the balcony. "My daughter's family got that stomach bug that's going around, so they canceled their dinner. I thought, where would I rather be than stuck in a hotel room alone, so I booked the first flight I could find." We welcomed her with hugs and quickly set another place at the table. Her unexpected appearance felt like confirmation that I was exactly where I was supposed to be, surrounded by people who had made the effort to be present. Later in the evening, we took holiday photos by the decorated palm trees in my yard. George had brought a professional camera with a timer allowing us to capture the entire group. I wore Frank's Christmas sweater for the pictures, the light-up nose blinking cheerfully against the backdrop of tropical plants and twinkling lights. Without really thinking about it, I posted a few of these photos on social media with the caption, "So blessed to be surrounded by those who chose to be here. Merry Christmas from my Florida villa." I knew Sarah would see them, but at that moment it wasn't about sending a message. It was about celebrating what I had not mourning what I'd lost. As the night grew late, most of the guests retreated to their rooms tired from travel and full of good food. My brother Tom remained on the terrace with me, both of us nursing glasses of wine and watching the moonlight on the water. "You know," he said after a comfortable silence, "Frank would be so proud of you." "For throwing a party," I smiled. "For refusing to be diminished. For creating joy instead of wallowing in hurt. For building something new when the old way wasn't working anymore." His words touched something deep within me. For the first time since Frank's death, I felt I was truly honoring his memory, not by preserving the past, but by living fully in the present. "I miss him every day," I admitted. "But tonight, it feels like he's here in all the laughter and connection." "He is," Tom assured me. "Just like he'll always be in Sarah too, whether she recognizes it or not." We talked late into the night about family dynamics, about children who need to separate before they can truly return, about the courage it takes to stand up for your own happiness. When we finally said goodnight, I felt more at peace than I had in months. As I fell asleep, I realized I hadn't checked my phone all evening. Whatever was happening at Sarah's Christmas with the in-laws no longer seemed like the most important part of my story. Christmas morning dawned bright and clear. I woke to the smell of coffee and the sound of voices. In the kitchen, I found Tom and Diana already up making breakfast for everyone. Other guests wandered in gradually, still in pajamas and robes, creating the cozy morning atmosphere I'd always loved about Christmas Day. We gathered in the living room for gift exchange after breakfast. I'd purchased small, thoughtful presents for everyone. Books for the readers, cooking tools for the chefs, beach-themed artwork for those who'd admired my decor. The gifts I received were equally meaningful. A handmade quilt from Barbara, a collection of Frank's favorite recipes compiled by Patricia, a beautiful seashell necklace from Beatrice. The gifts I'd originally purchased for Sarah's family remained wrapped in my closet. I hadn't been able to return them, still hoping somehow that things might change. But as I watched the joy around me, I realized I no longer needed that change to feel complete. Around noon, my phone rang. Sarah's name and picture appeared on the screen. I excused myself to take the call on the terrace. "Mom." Her voice sounded strained. "What's going on? I just saw your pictures online." I took a deep breath, determined to remain calm. "I'm having Christmas at my new home with friends and family who wanted to be here." "But all those people, you never said anything about having a big gathering. You never asked what my plans were after you decided not to come," I pointed out, keeping my voice level. "You just assumed I'd be alone." There was a pause. It looks really nice there." "It is," The weather is perfect and the ocean view is everything I hoped it would be. Mom. Her voice cracked slightly. I think we made a mistake. Sarah sighed heavily. It's a disaster. Margaret and Howard got into a huge fight last night about how to cook the turkey. Jack tried to intervene, and now Howard isn't speaking to him. The kids are bored out of their minds because there's nothing to do at their house, and Emma keeps asking why we couldn't go to Grandma's beach house instead. I felt a twinge of sympathy despite myself. I'm sorry it's not working out. The peaceful Christmas we wanted is anything but peaceful, she admitted. And seeing your photos, everyone looks so happy. The villa is gorgeous, Mom. You look really happy. I am happy, I said, realizing it was actually true. I decided I deserved to have a good Christmas, even if it wasn't the one I originally planned. There was a long silence. Then Sarah asked tentatively, would it be okay if we stopped by later today? The kids really want to see you. And your new place. I hesitated. Part of me wanted to refuse to protect the beautiful day I'd created from the complications of Sarah's last-minute change of heart. But another part recognized this as an opportunity for healing. You can come for dessert, I said finally. We'll be having it around 6. Really? Thank you, Mom. Sarah. Yes. I need you to understand something. I love you and the kids more than anything, but I won't be treated as an afterthought in your life. If you come, I expect a real conversation about how we move forward with more respect. Her voice was small when she replied, I understand. After ending the call, I rejoined the group feeling a mixture of emotions. Patricia noticed my expression. Everything okay? She asked. Sarah and her family are coming for dessert, I said. Their Christmas with the in-laws isn't going well. I expected perhaps a note of triumph from the group, some satisfaction that Sarah was facing consequences for her choice. Instead, Harold spoke up gently. Family is complicated, but it's good they're reaching out. Others nodded in agreement, and I felt a rush of gratitude for these people who could support me without feeding any bitterness or resentment. They understood that healing was more important than being right. When I shared the news with everyone, they immediately began helping prepare for the additional guests. Diana and Barbara set additional places at the table. Tom offered to make his famous hot chocolate for the kids. Catherine suggested we set up lawn games in the yard to give Emma and Tyler something fun to do. Their generosity in welcoming the very people whose rejection had brought us together touched me deeply. This was the true spirit of Christmas, not perfect harmony or the absence of conflict, but the willingness to make room for reconciliation and new beginnings. As evening approached, I found myself growing nervous. What would this reunion be like? Had Sarah's call been driven by genuine regret or mere disappointment with her alternative plans? How would the grandchildren react to seeing all these people they barely knew occupying their grandmother's attention? I needn't have worried. When Sarah's car pulled into the driveway at 5:45, Emma and Tyler tumbled out before it had fully stopped racing toward the house with excited shouts. Sarah and Jack followed more slowly, looking tentative and uncomfortable. The children burst through the front door, their eyes widening at the decorations, the crowd of adults, and the view of the ocean beyond the windows. "Grandma, this place is amazing!" Tyler exclaimed, throwing his arms around my waist. Emma, trying to maintain her teenage composure, simply said, "Wow, just wow." Sarah and Jack entered more cautiously, looking around in obvious surprise. The villa was clearly more impressive than they had imagined, the gathering more festive and substantial than the sad, solitary Christmas they had perhaps pictured me having. "Everyone," I said, "this is my daughter Sarah, her husband Jack, and my grandchildren Emma and Tyler. My guests welcomed them warmly without a hint of the awkwardness I had feared. Tom stepped forward to shake Jack's hand and give Sarah a hug.
"Good to see you, kiddo. It's been too long."
Slowly, the initial tension began to dissipate. Tyler found common ground with Harold, who had brought a telescope for stargazing later. Emma was drawn into conversation with Beatrice, who complimented her nail polish and asked about her hobbies. Jack seemed relieved to be welcomed without judgment, accepting the glass of eggnog George offered him. Sarah remained quiet, observing the easy camaraderie among people who had been strangers just hours earlier. After dessert was served, key lime pie alongside traditional pumpkin, she touched my arm. "Can we talk privately?" I nodded and led her to my bedroom balcony, which offered both privacy and a stunning view of the nighttime ocean. For a moment, we simply stood side by side, watching the waves in the moonlight. "I really messed up, didn't I?" Sarah finally said. "The text message hurt," I admitted. "Not just the decision, but the way it was delivered." "I know. I've been thinking about it ever since I saw your photos." She turned to face me. "The truth is, I sent that text because I was trying to please Jack's parents. They've been pressuring us for years to spend Christmas with them exclusively. This year, I finally gave in, thinking it would create peace." "And did it?" She laughed humorlessly. "Not even close. But that's not an excuse. I should have called you, talked it through. I should have considered how it would feel after Dad died, and after you moved here specifically to start fresh." I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. "When I saw those pictures," Sarah continued, "everyone smiling your beautiful home, I realized what we were missing, what I had thrown away so carelessly." Her eyes filled with tears. "The kids haven't stopped talking about how cool it would be to have Christmas at the beach. Jack was miserable dealing with his dad's moods, and I kept thinking about all our traditions, the ones that actually matter." "Those traditions can still matter," I said quietly. "But so can my feelings, Sarah. I'm not just a background character in your life, someone to fit in when it's convenient." "I know that, Mom. I do." She wiped at her eyes. "Since Dad died, I think I've been trying so hard to create perfect memories for the kids that I forgot the most important thing, that family means showing up for each other even when it's complicated." Jack joined us then, stepping hesitantly onto the balcony.
"Linda, I want to apologize too. I should have pushed back harder against my parents' expectations. The kids were so disappointed when they realized we wouldn't be coming here." I looked at both of them, seeing genuine regret in their expressions. "I appreciate the apology, but going forward, I need more than words. I need to be treated with consideration." "We want that too," Sarah said earnestly. "Being here tonight, seeing what you've created, it reminds me of what Dad always used to say about making room at the table for everyone." As the three of us stood together watching the sunset, I felt something shift. Not a complete healing yet, but the beginning of one. The hurt hadn't disappeared, but it had created space for new understanding. We rejoined the gathering where Emma and Tyler had already been completely integrated into the group. Tyler was helping Harold set up his telescope in the yard, while Emma was learning a card game from Tom and Diana. Catherine approached me with a glass of wine. "They seem like great kids," she said, nodding toward my grandchildren. "They are," I agreed. "They're the best of Sarah and Jack, and sometimes I see glimpses of Frank in them too. Will they be staying?" "Just for tonight, but—" I hesitated, then shared the idea that had been forming. "We've been talking about next Christmas. I think we might be able to create something new. A gathering that includes everyone." "Including Jack's parents."
Catherine raised an eyebrow. Maybe. On neutral ground. We'll see. The thought didn't fill me with dread anymore. Whatever happened, I knew I could handle it from a position of strength rather than fear of being alone. The next day, as guests began to depart with promises to keep in touch, plans were already being made for next year's gathering. Sarah, Jack, and the kids were the last to leave their car packed with the gifts I'd originally bought for them, along with extras from my other guests who had taken a shine to the children. "Next Christmas will be different," Sarah promised as we hugged goodbye. "We'll plan it together." "I'd like that," I said, and meant it. As I watched them drive away, I didn't feel the emptiness I'd feared. Instead, I felt a sense of fullness of having discovered something valuable about myself and about what really constitutes family. That evening, I walked alone on the beach as the sun set on Christmas Day. The sand was cool beneath my feet, the waves a soothing rhythm. I thought about the journey from devastation to empowerment, from rejection to creation of something new and beautiful. Sometimes being excluded leads to finding where you truly belong. Sometimes standing up for yourself opens the door for more authentic connection. And sometimes what feels like an ending becomes the beginning of something even better. I picked up a perfect shell and held it to the fading light. Like this shell, I had been shaped by the tides of life. Loss, love, disappointment, and joy. But also, like this shell, I remained whole, beautiful in my own way, and strong enough to weather whatever waves might come next. The real gift of this Christmas wasn't the reconciliation with Sarah, welcome as it was. The real gift was discovering my own capacity to create meaning and joy regardless of circumstances. Frank had always believed in my strength. It had taken this Christmas for me to truly believe in it too. As darkness fell, I whispered a thank you to the universe for unanswered prayers and unexpected blessings. The Christmas I'd planned hadn't materialized, but the one I'd created had changed me forever. Have you ever had a moment when rejection turned into an unexpected blessing? I hope my story reminds you that sometimes when a door closes, it's worth building your own house instead of knocking louder. Family is precious, but respect should be non-negotiable. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to hear more life experiences that might help you navigate your own relationships. Share this video with someone who might need to hear that it's never too late to stand up for yourself and create joy on your own terms. Are you spending the holidays with family this year, or have you created your own traditions with chosen family? Drop a comment below and let me know. I read every comment and would love to hear your stories. Thank you for spending this time with me today. Remember that you deserve to be treated with love and respect, especially by those closest to you. Sometimes the most meaningful gift we can give ourselves is the courage to create our own happiness. Until next time, this is Linda wishing you peace, joy, and the strength to write your own story, especially during the holiday season.